Check out 100 essential sentences packed with computer programming verbs and nouns, featuring subjects like I, you, we, they, he, she, and it. Perfect for mastering coding vocabulary. I debug the code to find errors. I write algorithms to solve problems. I test the application for bugs. I design the database schema. I deploy the software to production. I refactor the code for better performance. I configure the server settings. I compile the program before running it. I review pull requests from the team. I optimize the website for faster loading times. You code in Python, right? You analyze the data for trends. You create user interfaces with React. You troubleshoot network issues. You maintain the code base for the project. You implement security features in the app. You document the API endpoints. You develop mobile applications. You manage the repository with Git. You automate tasks using scripts. We collaborate on software projects. We deploy updates regularly. We discuss the project requirements. We fix bugs reported by users. We monitor server performance. We build scalable applications. We upgrade the system architecture. We integrate third-party services. We push changes to the repository. We ensure code quality through testing. They debug the production issues. They design responsive web pages. They test new features thoroughly. They write scripts for automation. They build APIs for mobile apps. They optimize the code for performance. They review the code for errors. They configure the cloud infrastructure. They analyze logs for anomalies. They deploy the application to the server. He codes in multiple languages. He writes efficient algorithms. He tests the application after each update. He designs the software architecture. He fixes the bugs in the program. He reviews the code for best practices. He optimizes the database queries. He configures the development environment. He manages the team's tasks. He pushes the latest code to Git. She develops mobile apps for iOS. She designs user-friendly interfaces. She debugs the application during testing. She writes clean and maintainable code. She automates repetitive tasks with scripts. She configures CI/CD pipelines. She deploys updates to production. She tests the new features before release. She manages the project timeline. She optimizes the app for speed and performance. It compiles the code without errors. It runs the script successfully. It handles multiple requests simultaneously. It crashes when memory usage spikes. It stores data in a secure database. It encrypts user data for security. It generates reports from the logs. It alerts the admin when an error occurs. It connects to the server seamlessly. It performs well under high load. I debug errors in the console. I design the user experience. I build the backend API. I manage version control with Git. I deploy updates using Jenkins. I analyze performance metrics. I automate workflows with scripts. I optimize SQL queries for speed. I configure the server for deployment. More sentences with you. You debug the code with breakpoints. You design scalable systems. You write tests for the application. You build cloud-based solutions. You manage the team's repository. You deploy services with Docker. You automate deployments with Ansible. You analyze system logs for issues. You review the architecture regularly. You optimize the front-end performance. More sentences with we. We write code that scales. We build robust APIs. We review code as a team. We debug issues together. We manage the project in sprints. We deploy the app in stages. We design solutions for complex problems. We optimize our workflow constantly. We automate repetitive tasks with scripts. We ensure security in our code. Now you tell the world how much and why you love what you do as a programmer. I love what I do as a programmer because I get to solve complex problems every day. I love what I do as a programmer since it allows me to create things from scratch. I love what I do as a programmer because coding feels like a superpower. I love what I do as a programmer because I get to build useful tools for others. I love what I do as a programmer because each day brings a new challenge. I love what I do as a programmer because I can automate boring tasks. I love what I do as a programmer because debugging is like solving a puzzle. I love what I do as a programmer because I can make ideas come to life. I love what I do as a programmer because it's both creative and logical. I love what I do as a programmer because I can continuously learn and grow. I love what I do as a programmer because it allows me to work on projects that matter. I love what I do as a programmer because writing clean code is so satisfying. I love what I do as a programmer because I get to collaborate with brilliant minds. Ready to level up your English and coding skills with a dash of humor? Today, we're diving into 100 sentences packed with programming vocab, using do, does, doesn't, and don't. It's like debugging your English skills, except more fun and way less frustrating. Do you know how to write a loop in Python? Do programmers use Git for version control? Do you need help with debugging this code? Do developers do code reviews regularly? Do I need to install any libraries for this project? Do you want to learn how to use the command line? Do software engineers do testing before deployment? Do you use a specific IDE for coding? Do you have experience with databases? Do they do code refactoring often? Does your code run without errors? Does the program need optimization? Does this algorithm do what it's supposed to? Does your IDE support Python? Does this application require a server to run? Does the compiler show any warnings? Does the function return the expected value? Does the database support SQL queries? Does your team follow agile methodology? Does this code snippet do what you intended? Function doesn't return the correct result. The code doesn't compile without errors. Doesn't the application support multi-threading? The website doesn't load quickly. Doesn't this software do automatic backups? The user interface doesn't look user-friendly. Doesn't the framework support REST APIs? The algorithm doesn't handle edge cases well. Doesn't the server do automatic updates? The script doesn't run on Windows. Don't forget to check for null values. Don't hard-code values in your program. Don't you know how to use version control? Don't push untested code to the repository. Don't developers do unit testing? Don't ignore code warnings from the IDE. Don't forget to document your code. Don't you have experience with JavaScript? Don't run the code without understanding it first. Don't over-optimize your code too early. More sentences with do programmers need to learn multiple languages. Do you know how to manage dependencies in a project? Do you use Docker for containerization? Do developers do code reviews before merging? Do you need to write test cases for this code? Do you follow best practices for coding? Do you want to contribute to open source projects? Do you have a favorite programming language? Do you know how to use regular expressions? Do developers do pair programming in your team? More sentences with does your application have a responsive design? Does the code adhere to the coding standards? Does this script do what you intended it to do? Does the server handle high traffic efficiently? Does this library support all the required features? Does your team use CI/CD pipelines? Does the program require any external APIs? Does your IDE have an integrated terminal? Does the function accept multiple arguments? Does the application do what the user expects? More sentences with doesn't this code doesn't follow the naming conventions. The function doesn't handle exceptions properly. Doesn't the code base need some cleanup? The website doesn't work on mobile devices. Doesn't the database do backups automatically? The script doesn't produce the expected output. Doesn't your IDE do syntax highlighting? The application doesn't scale well. Doesn't the system do logging? The API doesn't return the correct data. More sentences with don't leave any console.log statements in production code. Don't forget to optimize your SQL queries. Don't you think the code could be more efficient? Don't run untrusted code on your machine. Don't programmers do performance testing? Don't forget to check for memory leaks. Don't you have a backup of the database? Don't commit sensitive information to the repository. Don't override methods without understanding them. Don't neglect the user experience in your design. Final sentences with do, does, doesn't, and don't do. You prefer working on front-end or back-end? Does this tool integrate with your workflow? Doesn't the project have proper documentation? Don't skip code reviews for critical changes. Do developers do manual testing? Does the compiler optimize the code automatically? This approach doesn't seem efficient. Don't forget to update your dependencies. Does your script do error handling properly? Don't rush through the testing phase. Does the function do what it's supposed to do? Don't you know how to use breakpoints in debugging? Do you use version control for all your projects? Does the program run on multiple platforms? Don't forget to check for code vulnerabilities. Doesn't the system support multi-language input? Do you need to refactor the code? Don't leave your code unoptimized. Does the framework do what you need? Don't ignore user feedback.